But we're going to talk some Smoky Mountain. So you reminded me when we were texting, you said, remind me during the podcast of my insidious plot to kill Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch with food poisoning after Corny made me drive, or made me his driver slash bag boy for Christmas Chaos. I guess it was 1993. So do you want to elaborate on this that you spoke of via text message?
Sure, but we're jumping in time a little chronologically from what I got there, but sure. Yeah, so it was the Christmas Chaos tour, and in those days, I was not a man of means, and I had a piece of shit car, so I had to always hustle a friend to drive me, from South Carolina to Kentucky or wherever the hell we were working, at the time, or Tennessee or somewhere. So my friend Jeff Bailey, who actually is he's now a wrestling manager. Actually, I think he retired recently, but he's a lifelong friend of mine, the guy who turned me on to pro wrestling back when I was like in third grade, and we were roommates at the time. So anyhow, I had to go do TV, so he had to use his car. He had a nice new car. We get there, and Cornette announces to me, hey, DVH or whatever he called me, Van Horn. He goes, hey, Van Horn. He goes, hey, this is Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch. He's a crazy sick son of a bitch like you. You'll have a great time with him. Can you give him a ride, around the loop? And I marked out. I'm like, of course. I get to spend 4 days in a car with Captain Redneck. And I mean, I loved the heel Dick Murdoch when I was a kid, and I'd always, what little bit I had been around name wrestlers at the time was, I really soaked up being able to sit in a room and just shoot the shit with them, drink beer, and shut up and let them talk so I could soak up their knowledge. So this is what I'm looking forward to, is this great education. Well, my friend Jeff is a huge football fan, right? As is Dick Murdoch. I don't know jack shit about football. In fact, I actively dislike all real sports, right? So we get in the car, and these towns, I forget, they're probably 3 hours apart or whatever. And we get on the road finally, and they're talking football, and I'm trying to insert wrestling questions into it. And Dick Murdoch does not want to be bothered with a bunch of fucking wrestling questions from some mark manager sitting in the back seat. These guys are having a great time. But as the days went on, first of all, he ribbed me a couple of times. Like he'd say, hey, Van Horn, I don't have my wallet with me. It's in the suitcase. Can you pick me up a case of beer? I'd say, okay, sure. I'd pick it up. And that happened like the first 3 days. And the first 3 days we were on the road, he also didn't have money, didn't have his wallet with him when it was time to go eat at the Chinese restaurant or wherever we went. And Jeff eventually told me on the final day, he goes, you stupid asshole. He goes, you just got ribbed. He's not going to pay you because when you walked out the car, he said, thanks for the beer, you dumb son of a bitch. So there's that going on. But while I was in the car, so I'm trying to have wrestling conversations with him, and he's just raking my eyes constantly. He's wanting to talk about college football with my buddy in the front seat. And at one point, I ask him, I say something about wrestling, and he says, oh, yeah, that's fucking Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler don't know how to draw. That motherfucker thinks he can draw. Now, you've got to remember, I'd been in the business about 3 years at this point, for the most part, doing outlaw mud shows, as Cornette calls them. Although I had, right before Smoky Mountain for maybe a year, I'd gotten to where I was on the independent shows that, I'd be managing Paul Orndorff for the Iron Sheik. So I'd moved way up on the mud show circuit. But I still was around a bunch of people who didn't know what they were doing, and they weren't speaking the proper lingo because it was a bunch of jabronis, right? So He's talking about Jerry Lawler thinks the motherfucker thinks he can draw. So I'm remembering in the old days, Bill Apter magazines would have pictures that Jerry Lawler drew. He actually was an artist, and that's how he bullshitted his way into the business. So I start arguing with Captain Redneck. I'm like, no, Jerry Lawler can draw. Hell no, that motherfucker can't draw. He goes, fuck, you know who can draw? The M&M boys. And I go, M&M boys? And I remember that's what he and Blackjack Mulligan called themselves in the mid to late 70s in Mid-Atlantic when they were there together. And I said, oh, yeah, Mulligan. And he goes, yeah. And so I think I've got him on a roll, right? About to start talking about him and Mulligan. And he goes into this story about how, no, that fucking Lawler, he thought he could draw, but man, me and Mulligan, we outdrew that son of a bitch everywhere we went. And we bought the Knoxville territory or something like that. But he's going on and on about drawing. And I asked him some other question about, oh, really? So what kind of medium do you work in? Like paint or pen and ink or, canvas? What do you do? And he just cuts this scathing promo on me. Then somewhere else on the tour, I try to get a word or an edgewise as every once in a while he'd just lean back and like, shut the fuck up, rookie, and just brutally berating me and ribbing me for these long, grueling 2-lane road trips in the asshole of America somewhere between Hazard, Kentucky and, North Carolina somewhere. And he said something about having something working for somebody outside of wrestling. And I said, well, where do you work? He said, I work with curs. I heard him say curs. Now, I thought he meant a cur dog, if you've ever heard of that. A cur dog is like a Southern term for just some kind of piece of shit mongrel dog, I guess. I believe. So I work with curs. I start asking him questions about dog breeds and, does he get them from rescue shelters? And, and he looks at my friend Jeff and he goes, Jeff, pull the goddamn car over. Stop the goddamn car. You stupid son of a bitch. Coors beer, you stupid motherfucker. Coors beer. and so I just kind of ball up into a fetal position. And he is, I had never been browbeaten or ribbed ever in my short time in the wrestling business at that point. Right. And I had looked forward to getting together with Captain Redneck because, I'd always heard from people I'd met over the years on the shows that, if you ever meet Captain Redneck, you're going to love him because he loves to drink beer and you love to drink beer, right? And and then even one time, even though he's having me buy him a case of beer every day that he never paid me for, I'm in the back now, miserable, and I'm slamming back beers, right? And he's cutting promos on me about, stupid motherfucker, don't you take any pride in your job? What are you doing sitting back there getting drunk? So finally, we get done with one of the towns. It was a third of 4 nights, I guess. And I am ready to kill this guy. I'm hating him, and I can't say a fucking word to him. So, you know how they say, don't meet your heroes, you might be disappointed? Well, that's where my head was. So I'm telling Jeff, my roommate or driver or whatever, my buddy, I said, look, I'm about to just walk out of here. I can't deal with this shit anymore. Or we've got to say your car's broken or something. We got to kayfabe him. And Murdoch calls our room. And he goes, hey, Van Horn, you boys got anything? Oh, and it was also snowing. It was probably 2 feet of snow, 3 feet of snow on the ground, right? It was really bad. And Murdoch goes, you boys want to go get something to eat? And I was like, no, we can't fucking go anywhere and eat. Look outside. I don't know where the fuck I am. I'm not going anywhere. And basically at that point, it was kind of a passive aggressive, fuck you. I'm not doing you any favors is what I felt. I didn't have the balls to say it. But he goes, you boys ain't got, he goes, goddamn Van Horn, how long you been in the damn business? You on the road, you boys don't know how to bring a bologna sandwich with you? And I go, hold on, let me call you back. And I hang up the phone. And I remembered then, and this is where I hatched my diabolical scheme. Jeff had taken me, because I'd go there once a month and we'd take 3 weeks of TV or whatever, or every 3 weeks we'd go there, right? And my girlfriend at the time would pack a cooler with, sandwiches and shit like that, so I wouldn't have to spend money on the road. And of course, we never ate the food because we were too busy partying, right? And this food just sat in the cooler and festered. And I ran outside to the car and I opened up this little Igloo cooler that Jeff had in the back of his car. And it was like opening Pandora's box. It smelled like a fucking monkey's wedding. It's like, when you open, if somebody's refrigerator has been turned off or something and it had food in it,
Yes.
It jumped out and just bitch slapped me in the face. And I looked down there and there is mold bread and there are several sandwich bags, little baggies or whatever you call them, full of ham, right? Like ham steaks that had mold on them. I mean, legit green and gray, shitty mold. So I bring the stuff back in the room and I said, Jeff, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. Because you know what? If he is crazy enough to eat this shit, he's going to get a case of the shits. He won't be able to make the tour. And then we can make the town and he'll be sick and he'll be out of my hair forever. Right. So Murdoch calls back a few minutes later. Damn, Van Horn, did you find any food? I go, yeah, I've got something. It's been in the car a little bit. I'm not sure if it's going to be good. And he comes in the room, and the damn Igloo is there, and it stinks. The Igloo cooler stinks like a son of a bitch. And I pull out, like the bread, the half a loaf of bread is really shitty on either side, right? Like black. But in the middle, there's a damn, you could cure polio with what's growing on this shit. It's still obviously moldy. And the ham has hair growing off of it, And I said, well, is this okay with you? And I handed him the bag of ham. Murdoch looks at it and he goes, yeah, that's good. You got a slice of white bread? Well, as a matter of fact, I do, Captain Redneck. And I reach in the middle of the thing and I grab a piece of bread and he grabs this moldy bread, one piece, slaps this shitty ham in it, folds it in half. He goes, damn, Bubby, you got a little mustard? And I go, sure I do. And I hand him the mustard. He pours mustard on it. And then he starts eating it and he's talking football with my friend. And I'm waiting on him to vomit. He doesn't vomit. He does this like 3 more fucking times, And
Jesus.
Finally, he just leaves the room. And I'm waiting in the morning. The phone rings and I'm going, yes. Either it's the maid saying Dick Murdoch has gone to the hospital with, food poisoning or botulism or something. But no, he's like, God damn, you boys ain't up yet. We gotta go a long haul. Let's get on the fucking road. So yes, Captain Redneck completely no-sold my rib on him and no-sold my plot. Now, I don't know if he was drunk and didn't pay. I'm thinking he just refused to sell, and ate it anyway. But the end of that story is, so yes, I did try to make him sick or kill him. But the next night, as we were on our way, that morning when we were on our way to the final town, he's continuing to batter me verbally the whole way there. And something came up about sex. And I piped up for a minute and Murdoch leaned over the back. Shut the fuck up, Van Horn. You ain't got no damn pussy on that shit, blah, 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 And Jeff defended me. And Jeff goes, no, this guy's like a rock star. And Murdoch goes, ah, shit, yeah, you damn pussy like you. You don't play no football. What kind of queer are you? Yeah, blah. And Jeff says, open up the briefcase. Well, in those days, there were no cell phones. A lot of conversations, a lot of things I'm going to say during our conversation are going to go back to there were no cell phones or computers in the day, right?
Yeah.
But in those days, if you wanted proof of the rats, you had to do it Gene Simmons style and have Polaroids, right? So I had Polaroids. And for every story that Jeff and I started telling, because we would work a tag team heel gimmick on the rats sometimes, we had Polaroids. And Murdoch started laughing and popping. And then he was like, God damn, Van Horn, you're all right with me. And then after the show was over that night, we sat up till probably, 4 or 5 in the morning when we had to take him to the airport. And he stopped healing on me and we laughed our asses off. And then I could ask him all the stupid wrestling questions. and he was really, really fucking cool. And, you know, right before he left, and it was the greatest compliment I had ever received in the wrestling business up to that point. Just as we were dropping him off at the airport, he goes, "Goddamn, boys, I swear to God, you're a lot of fun." He goes, "If I still had a territory, I'd put you guys under contract just for morale." So I was like, yeah. So finally, I turned him babyface.
After you tried to kill him and food poison him. Yeah, that's a good story. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yes.
Captain Redneck.